Alright, assuming this show actually makes it to the, through the recording process and doesn't screw up like the other one, we're doing things a little different here. James is with us, but James is doing about 8 different things at once right now. So he doesn't want to be on video or anything else, but he may just speak as the voice from the sky that he is in this setup right now if he wants to chime in on something. What was that?
I said that's right.
That's right.
Just showing everyone I'm here.
Exactly. Okay. It was really funny. I guess it kind of worked out good that we weren't able to do this because last week because your voice being out, Jordan. Because at least 3 different people have asked questions about the various desktops, and yeah, it's like I put one of them in there, but it seems to be a topic of interest. You want to start with that, or you want to start with the other stuff, which probably won't take very long to get into? I don't know if you know this or not. I brought this up with James on the lost PZV Mac at this point, unless I can never figure out how to recover that file. But apparently, not only is Google, saying like you said last week or earlier this week, I forget when you put that video up, like that the Android 2.2 is made for phones and therefore these tablet things are not. I've been reading things that say they're actually forbidding true tablet makers, like the bigger tablet devices, to include the Android apps thing.
There have been some where they've had licensing issues. I know the crappy little one that I bought a while back, they had a possible lawsuit that they ended up working out where they had not gotten the proper licenses to include the App Store, but as far as I know, other tablet manufacturers are still okay. I haven't had my hands on one yet, so I can't be 100% though.
No, because when I was like, it's under the licensing, they're not supposed to include it in these tablet devices. Some of them, like some of the Samsung devices, are getting through a loophole in that they're claiming they're an oversized phone, even though they're not. And
like the new Galaxy Tab that they're working on.
Right. Which works fine for 7-inch ones, but I'm not sure that's going to fly with the 10-inch ones.
Yeah, that'd be an awful big thing to fit in your pocket.
But see, that's going to create an interesting can of worms, to be quite honest, because there's some good Android hardware as far as the hardware wise for tablets coming out this holiday season. Some of which we don't know if it's actually going to be up for Christmas or if the federal approval is going to take till January, in which of course we won't see it till the Consumer Electronics Show. But if the App Store isn't on these, even though Android devices can run things from outside the App Store, that's almost a deal breaker for me, to be quite honest, because you have no guarantee that that device is going to be upgraded to Gingerbread or whatever the heck the other one is. I forget.
Honeycomb.
Yeah, Honeycomb. That's because, they say it, but then 6 months later when it actually comes, you may have buyer's remorse, because now that you can finally take advantage of the thing, there's something else better. You don't have the same buyer's remorse if you could take advantage of it from day one.
Right.
I hate to say this, but with this being up in the air right now, my honest recommendation is stand back and maybe not buy one at all this holiday season if it winds up being like that, just to not get stuck in that.
And possibly keep your eye on some of the other non-Android tablets, like the Wii Tab that's coming out supposedly this coming week with Migo on it.
Yeah, but I mean, while Amigo's kind of cool, is there really any real support for that yet anywhere, or is it?
Well, it's being developed by Nokia and Intel, so they've got a lot of developers working on it. That said, there are actually full Linux distros that are implementing the Migo interface on top of themselves. So there's a lot of distros that are starting to get behind it. I know OpenSUSE and I believe even Fedora have implementations of it already.
Well, but here's my thing with that, okay? I would almost consider that a different class device. In that, because I mean, like the iPad / Android devices / iOS, that's really more of a, even though it is a computer and it is a computing device, it's more a link device. It's more lightweight, basic function link. I would argue with that thing, especially if you stick something like an Intel chip in there, you're looking at more of a computing device, more a true slate device, which is a different device. It's kind of overkill for a link device. I'm not saying there isn't a need for that device, but it's an entirely different niche.
Right.
It's honestly a niche that I only really see power users and workaholics needing. The average user, I'm not sure they really need that niche. While it's a cool idea and all, and I would actually like it, I'm thinking from a purely ultimate market share standpoint, really how much of the end user needs something that powerful in that form factor type of thing. Rather it's, oh, well, you can do so much more, it's not, inevitably the cost is going to come into that. I mean, I haven't seen the price points for those, but I'm thinking they'd be hedging towards the $1,000 mark rather quickly.
The WeTab is supposed to be 450 euros, which is about $600 US. So that's definitely a lot more than the standard tablets that we're seeing that are Android based.
Right, and I mean I guess if you're only going to compare it with something like the iPad, the price point isn't that far off. But when you're going to be comparing it with all these other Android devices.
Well, and all of them that are supposed to be in the $300 range, that does make a huge difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's...
What are the two developers of Migo again?
Intel's one of them.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Nokia.
Nokia.
Are they going to license it so that other people can make it? Like, is like HP or something like that, or Dell going to potentially make a Migo tablet?
Well, as far as I know, the Migo interface is all free and open source, and it's just it's a desktop environment that sits on top of whatever underlying operating system you want to put there.
I mean, technically, you could put it on top of Android if you wanted to.
So what's going to stop it from, fragmenting out of control? I mean, one of the things that Android has for them is, even though it's an open operating system, the Google Marketplace is not open. Not open as in Google owns it, and you can't just put it on your device without getting permission from them. And that's Google's bargaining chip, that they won't let you use this and put this on it. Of course, if you take the marketplace off, you can do whatever you want with Android. But what's stopping Migo? Just like the marketplace that Google owns is stopping Android from getting all fragmented.
Honestly, I don't think there's anything that really keeps it from fragmenting. I honestly have a feeling that the Migo interface will end up being something akin to another GNOME or KDE. And the Migo as an operating system, as a distro itself, who knows where that'll end up going.
So there's just going to be a bunch of different things using Migo as a UI?
Right.
And the thing is that there's going to be all these things with the same UI, and they're not going to be able to run the same programs because they're going to be different. They're not going to be binary compatible. That's a problem.
Well, and that's not a problem for, like I said, that's not a problem for power users, but for average users, that becomes a problem quickly. Honestly, I don't see HP throwing their head in with this just because HP owns WebOS. If HP isn't going Android, they're going WebOS. I really think they're going to try and make WebOS work before they try and make Android work. Unless Microsoft pulls off the 3-card Monty of Hail Marys with Windows Mobile /Phone 7 /embed / any other name we can name for this continually evolving project that keeps splintering itself up on 6, up on 3, up on whatever. I mean, it looks pretty. If you ever want to see a really pretty implementation of Silverlight stuff, look at it. But it's one of those, I don't see the manufacturers really going all gung-ho behind it. And honestly, if we've learned anything from the way the manufacturers embraced Windows, the manufacturers just kind of pick a flavor and go with it. They don't really dare around with other things and so on and so forth. So I don't know if this would happen or not.
You guys know any website that isn't owned by Microsoft or supported by Microsoft that actually uses Silverlight instead of Flash?
Well, Netflix would be the only one I can think
Netflix,
of.
Yeah.
But Netflix basically struck a deal with Microsoft. Another one actually would be parts of the BBC. And the reason I say that is because the big thing that keeps Silverlight from being fully cross-platform compatible and that it doesn't work right with Linux is the whole DRM stuff. That is always cracked within 72 hours of their coming out with a new variant of it. But ignoring that for a second, that's why certain BBC sites chose that, because the BBC wanted to have lockdown control of stuff. In some ways, the BBC still lives in the 1980s. They do not trust the end user. They do not trust people. Like, this is the people's money. We must lock it down. I've never understood that mentality, because they can make a lot of money off of their brethren from across the pond if they would drop that. And I think they're starting to get that, but they're not getting there yet. Because the BBC, unlike, actually streams a lot of their stuff online. It's not known in the US because one of the things it verifies is that you're actually in the UK, which... the type of DRM that goes with Silverlight, it's very hard to spoof that around, which is why they went with that. It locked things down in a way Flash couldn't. But other than those two exceptions, yeah. As a matter of fact, that's something that annoys the hell out of me about the Bing web tools. You'll get this little annoyance every single page. Please install Silverlight to get full functionality. Please install Silverlight to get full functionality. I'm on a Linux box. I would install Moonlight, except you don't want me to have full functionality, so I'm not screwing with it.
Yeah, Moonlight is so hard to install.
It's not that it's hard to install. It's that Moonlight doesn't support the DRM. So what's the point? The sites I'd want to use Moonlight with are implementing the DRM, which means unless I hack my way around it, I can't use it. So what's the point of having this extra plugin to slow my browser down and everything else that I'm really, if I'm honest, never going to use except in a demo to go, well, if Microsoft or the person using Silverlight to distribute this wasn't screwing it up, it would work. So...
why isn't there DRM on it?
Because the DRM is not open source and it's implemented in such a way that it's Microsoft discontinued working with the Moonlight development team. So Moonlight's always, for legal reasons, a few steps behind. Basically, legally Moonlight cannot include the DRM that's part of Silverlight. Because it's...
Are they like under the GPL v3 or something? Or just GPL?
I forget exactly what it is. It's basically Moonlight is an open source recreation of Silverlight, but it's not an identical copy, and it's released under GPL. I forget the particular. What causes the problem is the DRM. At one point, Microsoft was working with Moonlight. Early versions of Moonlight and early versions of Silverlight were able to play the DRM. Then Microsoft pulled out completely. And that hadn't been the same since.
Well, here's my question. It's just that there's two, types of GPL that I know of, and that's the normal GPL, and there's the LGPL. And then the LGPL lets you use proprietary components. Or it's just Microsoft not letting them use it.
Microsoft won't give it to them. Microsoft won't let them use it. Microsoft's forbidding the use of it.
I see.
And it's like that's honestly the whole reason for Silverlight, if we're honest, for streaming things, that this DRM exists, even though it doesn't really protect the content. It's the illusion that it does. So they don't want it in the open source implementation. But the flip to that is, if you're running things on Silverlight, it's impossible for your content to be cross-platform. What's annoying as hell about this is that, like we talk about Netflix has a Linux app that does it. Netflix is who has to build that to build it legally. And they've built it. They built it for Boxy. They just refused to release it to desktop Linux. Why, I have no earthly idea. They feel the need to punish their customers, I guess. I don't